address you more directly than behind the barrel. Can I be heard? Can you hear me well enough? For I should prefer to speak to you thus. We are here to commemorate, to celebrate our Declaration of Independence. And as I had some small part in the composition and adoption of that document, it seemed appropriate that I should address you upon that. Although, you must understand that I've been called many things in my life. A printer, a publisher, a polymath, a diplomat, a statesman, a thief, a liar, a rebel, a sage. But there's one thing that I don't think I've ever been called, and that is a great orator. So, I was bred up the son of a candle maker. I was not sent to a college nor a school of rhetoric. I'm afraid you can't expect from me the soaring expressions of a Richard Henry Lee nor the fiery passion of a George Whitefield. But I shall attempt to make my remarks at least useful, by which term I mean amusing and instructive. Now, in the spring of 1776, I found myself a member of the Great Continental Congress in Philadelphia. We had been at war with our mother country, or rather, I should say, she had been at war with us for above a year. The king had long since declared us outside his protection and subject to the depredations of his armies and fleets. And yet we continued reluctant to accept the obvious that we were no longer within the British Empire. We were reluctant to assert finally and permanently our independence. But as it seemed inevitable that that event should occur, the Congress appointed a committee to draw up a Declaration of Independence, to have it, as it were, in hand, should it be needed. Now, this was on the 11th of June. There were 5 of us appointed to that committee: Mr. Roger Sherman of Connecticut, Mr. Robert Livingston of New York, Mr. John Adams of Massachusetts Bay, your own Mr. Thomas Jefferson of Virginia, and myself. It was, in some respects, a rather peculiar situation in which to find myself. I had not long past returned from near 20 years' residence in London. And during those 20 years, I had bent my every effort to heal the breach between the colonies and their mother country, to preserve the British Empire entire. That precious china bowl that I thought, with proper usage, might serve for many generations to come. I had come at last to the conclusion, however, that the only way a union between the colonies and England could be preserved was by the surrender of our ancient rights as Englishmen, and to accept a subordinate situation within that empire to be governed entirely by the Crown and Parliament of Great Britain. And that sort of union was no union at all. And therefore I was, if anything, now impatient for the final separation. Yet we of the committee were in agreement that a simple act of separation was not sufficient, that only a fool acts without consideration of the opinions of others, that an action so unprecedented must be justified and explained, that was, as Mr. Jefferson put it, that a decent respect for the opinions of mankind necessitated that sort of fuller explanation. And so we set about to compose this Declaration of Independence, to put at great length precisely the necessity that required it. We were in agreement, pretty much, the committee, as to what this instrument should contain. We wished nothing in it that was novel or original. We wished nothing that would startle the ear. We wished simply to put forward the common sense of the question, to express the general opinion of our fellow countrymen upon this matter, and to put that forward in terms so plain and firm that others would be compelled to assent.